Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Certified Forgotten. We are still your horror podcast that talks about horror films with 10 or fewer reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you can believe it, that is the second version of that I fucking had to do because it has been a day in the Certified Forgotten household. As a reminder, we are a wonderful podcast. We have hour-long episodes with incredible guests. We have 30-minute episodes where we talk about newer releases, and it's just my co-host Matt Donato and I. But as you know, because you read the title on the tin, this is an hour-long episode. We've got an awesome guest, and we're riding, at least Donato's riding a little bit of high off of watching 700 films in 36 minutes at Sundance Film Festival. So he is in the mode to talk about cinema. Is that correct, my friend?
I mean, I'm in the mode to talk about this specific kind of cinema today because, yes, I was at Sundance. It was actually a very nice Sundance. I got to do more than just Midnighters. I think I might have mentioned this already on the podcast, but pounded out about 10 reviews for the wrap that had nothing to do with horror. Documentaries about Nelson Mandela and acquitted, or let's say wrongfully incarcerated people, and all these really deep, heavy topics. So I don't know, got to flex my writing muscles in a way that I haven't in a while. Plus, I just posted my interview with James Wan and Lee Wanell, which is very horror focused, but never got to sit down with them before. And I got a nice little Saw retrospective interview on Bloody Disgusting that just dropped today. So very excited about that. That was cool.
Yeah, I feel like you, in my head, you are the Boss Baby meme except for Demon Wind. So you're reviewing a Nelson Mandela document and you're like, is this giving anybody else Demon Wind vibes? Because it's the only other film you've ever seen.
It might have been the only time in a review I didn't mention Demon Wind.
All right,
So
fair
like,
enough.
I listen, I did, I fought it hard, but yeah, it's nice to remind people I could do more than Demon Wind and fucking dog shit horror movies.
You are a man of many, many, many qualities. And one of those qualities is when we have an excellent guest on the podcast doing a wonderful introduction. Donato, show off another skill you have.
I mean, I don't know if I have to this time because this person is a repeat guest, possibly the number one right now, if I'm
Maybe
thinking of our
yes.
repeat guests. So it is one half of the wives, Colangelo, one half of This Ends At Prom. Harmony, Colangelo, thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing me a very fun movie to get me out of my Sundance headspace.
If there was ever a movie that was the opposite of Sundance, it might be Death Ship.
So Harmony, before we started recording, you were talking a little bit about your experience, and we won't name names or particular screenings or anything like that, but kind of what an average night looks like for you at Vidiots. And I was curious. I have never actually thought about because I've been on the other side of the room a lot, where I'm at a screening room, I'm at a festival, I'm at a theme bar, whatever. What is it like being in that environment, serving people whose intellects are high and inhibitions are low? Is it a dream come true, or is it something that you are looking at your watch come like 11 p.m.?
Oh, it really depends on the movie. So some movies, weirdly enough, you think the intellect is high, but some people certainly think that it's a lot higher than it might be for some individuals who come in. You know, they name drop like. Have you ever just been in a room with dudes and they just go, "Oh, Robert Redford." It's like, "Oh, Robert Redford. Oh, Robert Duvall. I know Robert Duvall," and all they do is just name guys at each other for like a half hour. Um, those aren't my favorite days.
That's the most dude-centric activity, just dudes hanging out, saying names. Like, it's the meme of a bunch of dudes hanging out and just saying baseball player names, and then they go home
Yeah.
and they're like, the wives are all like, "So what'd you guys talk about?" And they're like, "I don't know, Alfonso Soriano." Like,
That's all it is. It's just naming directors and actors. And you know what? Everyone's having fun. I'm gonna drift to the other side of the bar during those kinds of conversations. But you know, I like to drop knowledge on people. I've been told that I'm pretty good at discussing films by people who discuss films often. I like to think that I talk about movies that they maybe don't appreciate as much as they should. So I fit in this crowd perhaps more than your general garden variety cinephile.
And I know I led that in with a little bit of a joke, but I do want to ask a bit about the experience of Idiots too, because as somebody who recently moved from Austin, where I typically only ever went to one place to watch movies, it was a
Hmm.
draft house. They had the combination of art house screening stuff. They had the combination of blockbusters and mainstream releases, so I could just kind of go there for everything. I've had to cobble together now that I'm in Philadelphia a little bit more of a screening circuit where I go to this art house for these titles. I'll go to Center City at the Landmark to watch the Netflix releases. I'll go out to King of Prussia to see, the international cinema that only they offer. So I'm in a place right now where I find myself thinking a lot about the various flavors of repertory cinemas, of screening rooms that folks go to. What is the vibe these days in the indie scene?
That every theater's got their kind of thing. Obviously, Los Angeles is your cup runneth over when it comes to theaters. You'll have places like Brain Dead, which will do probably more scuzzball movies than a lot of other places do, and bless them for that. You have, the more grindhouse stuff is home in Tarantino movies and doesn't seem to do as well in other theaters. Because why would you go see a Pam Grier movie if you're not seeing it at Tarantino's theater?
Mm,
Like each theater's kind of got their own thing, their own vibe, their own feel. Where I'm at work, I've been told that we keep out a lot of the worst people. you know so our vibe just is not either from a programming standpoint or perhaps a lack of pretension standpoint, or the fact that we're just mostly a lot of women and gay people. We don't tend to attract the film people, the
mm.
film bros of the world, who I'm gonna have to sit there and listen to them go, you don't understand, Eli Ross just misunderstood. And I was like, no, shut up.
Oof.
Shut up, he's not. Thanksgiving's bad, don't talk to me.
A valid question, being a bartender extraordinaire for
Yes.
a movie theater that attracts such crowds. Can you tell, like, when a movie is programmed and the audience is coming in, can you kind of predict like what the drink of the night is going to be, like based on the movie?
Sometimes, yeah. Like that is a little bit of a game sometimes we play, where it's like, what kind of crowd is it going to be for this Bellatar screening? I was like, I don't know, orange wine. It's always orange wine. They love their natural wines because it's the trendy thing. But mob movies and vampire movies love red wine.
Mm.
That's an obvious one. Like your big rowdy kind of action flicks, those are going to be your standard draft beer kind of thing. Like there are some that are a bit more obvious, a bit more predictable. An older film generally attracts an older crowd, so you get a little bit older taste. They like a sparkling wine like a prosecco or a Chardonnay. So there's some trends that are common across all of those. Though this month's been weird. It's been dry January, so everything's up in the air.
Oh yeah. And do you find, now I'm just asking random bartending questions. Do you find that there's a lot of truth in the generational breakdown? I feel like every day I read an article that says that the Utes, the Gen Zers aren't drinking anymore and that millennials are going to be the last heavy drinking generation. Do you find this is true in the types of people that go to the movies?
Um, it's hard to say because I'm only on the bar side of things, which means that whenever I see people, it's because they're there to get a drink. But like younger people do come. I frequently have to card people who are 22, very, very young. And usually it's a matter of carding someone based on how comfortable they feel ordering a drink. That's the first inkling that, hey, I should card them rather than you look young, because it's Los Angeles and everyone kind of looks vaguely young because everyone's getting work done. So it's just like, yeah, you don't feel confident ordering that cider. I think I need to see your ID. That's my first clue. But yeah, I don't know. I think that is a thing. I've heard that that's a thing. I wonder if it might be a liquor type situation, because liquor is a higher barrier for entry, and it comes with a little bit more of a learned palate. It comes with a higher constitution. If I was more of a standard bartender like I used to be, making mixed drinks and whatnot, that might give perhaps more information. But they enjoy the ones that come to the bar for me, they enjoy drinking. I can tell you that much.
I still need to crack into. I haven't. So for those who don't know and who are listening, Harmony is a published bartender with cocktail
Mm-hmm.
recipes in a book, and I have
Mm-hmm.
that book, and I still haven't attempted one of your cocktails yet, and I still need to do that. Like I feel like I need to be able to see if I can like make it for you and be like, how did I do? Grade me.
That's ambitious.
That's a really ambitious. I thought you were just gonna make it, and I was like, make it for you. I was like, well, okay.
No, I'm like a perfectionist. Like if I want to do it, I want to do it really well, and I want someone to tell me like, no, this is bad. That's like my
Yeah.
motivation. That's
Oh,
how I
you'd be
work.
fine. Like the cocktails that exist in my book are like so like I call it punk rock bartending. The idea that like you should be able to make it yourself. The idea of it's like three chords in a story. You just have attitude and three
Mm.
ingredients. There you go. You can make a drink. I didn't want to make like I've had cocktail books. I have cocktail books in my house. I have several, and they're so complicated, and they have so many tools, and they have big French names that nobody has just lying around their kitchen. So the idea of making a drink at home should be something you'd want to drink at home, not, hey, I'm going to do the recipe's going to call for a shot. And it's like, why are you doing shots? You're at home.
All right, I want to ask this question then too, because my friend, a fellow Matt, who I know listens to this podcast, shout out and hello to Matt Glazer. One of his favorite things to do is go up, and this is we're just talking about alcohol now. One of his
Hmm.
favorite things to do is go up to a bartender, and as a way of forming a connection, he'll be like, "What would you drink? Like, what would you make?" Like he gifts that decision making to the bartender,
Hmm.
and there are times where, based on the person that we're talking to, I'm like, oh, I bet this feels like a fun thing. Somebody's like, I got a back pocket full of quick go-tos. There are other times I'm like, that person's just got to be thinking, just fucking order something, man. Like, what are you doing? You're killing me. How do you feel about that? If somebody comes up and is like, what would you get? Is that, are you going to be like, great, I've got a thing that I recommend to everybody? Are you like, just get a Bud Light or something? Just leave me alone.
Oh yeah. I know I loved making drinks for people back when I, was still doing cocktails back in Cleveland because I was at a gin bar here that's not open anymore. But so like it's been a while. It's been a few
Yeah,
years
yeah.
since I was making mixed drinks, but I was mostly doing most of that in Cleveland. Um, I had a few like off menu drinks that were like just in my back pocket, going like, hey, here's some stuff that we always have on hand. I know I've always got lime. I know I've always got ginger beer. I always know I've always got these. And I can kind of experiment with those. So if someone wants something off menu, feel a little special, maybe I'll light it on fire if I'm feeling fancy that day, really wow the crowd. There were options to do that. But otherwise, like I would do that often on slow days in the middle of the day. Like people would get off work and come in at like 4:30 and I'd be like, hey, Bob, we're doing drink science. He's like, okay. So then I would just be doing things and just be like, all right, we're doing small portions of things. And I'm going to kind of try to come up with new drinks to put on the menu. We'll see what happens. So I love playing around with stuff.
That was my favorite thing to do when my high school job was cooking for we'll call it a grill at our local lake growing up. And same thing. We did the same with food when it was a slow day, maybe a rainy day even, so no one came to the lake, but we had to stay open for some reason. And my favorite thing to do is to test deep fried things. So like we did fried Oreos. So I had the batter, I had everything ready to go. And I would just send the lifeguards out to get the most ridiculous shit from the supermarket and bring it back. And like we were like
Hmm.
deep frying like Kit Kats, anything you could imagine, just to see how it would work. And that was honestly my favorite days in the job. Like those were just the stupidest shit. But like, I don't know. We found one or two things that were like really good, like deep fried Mounds bars. I don't know. I just fucking loved it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm missing a window here to do deep fried cocktails. I feel like that is an underrated. That's a market niche the two of you could really crush.
I'm not going to say that I haven't incorporated like fried elements into like a Bloody Mary. That's
Fair
not
enough.
totally unheard of. Like you could put an onion ring in that kind of family.
Also, I've absolutely tried deep fried margaritas. I found a recipe for it online, and basically, you took pound cake, soaked it in a fresh margarita, and like fried it. It actually came out pretty decent. Like I did it once, I never tried it again, but it exists, Monocle. If there is a thought, it exists on the internet.
This is America, damn it. As last I checked, you can fry anything.
I believe it. I am not surprised that that is a drink that you have made, Donato. This is the least intriguing bit of
It's a
Donato
dessert.
lore that
It's
I've
not a
ever.
drink. You can't drink it. You fucking fry it up. You throw it out there, and it tastes like a deep fried margarita somehow.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I feel like we would be wasting the time that we have with you, Harmony, if we didn't talk about movies at least a little bit. So, the question that I want to ask, and we're going to talk about today's film, Death Ship, in a little bit. But I'm always curious how people come to watch these like 70s, 80s, even early 90s films that are cult classics that fly under the radar. That maybe, we have friends that they just will randomly choose a poster on Tubi and they'll watch movies and build like the weirdest canon of stuff that way. So you talked a bit before we started recording on some of the folks that you'll listen to and whose opinion and maybe appearance as a special features contributor means something to you. But how do you decide to roll the dice on something like this? Are there people whose recommendations you weigh heavily, or are you just sort of like a plot synopsis, fuck it, go kind of person?
Well, I guess it depends on how short the movie is and how much time I've got. Because I can sit down for a 75-minute movie pretty much any day. But, sometimes it's like, well, this slasher movie is 2.5 hours. I'm not naming names. And I'm like, I'm not watching a 2.5 hour slasher movie. I'm sorry. But yeah, like there's certain people, like, in the case of Death Ship, where I find out that they're on a release and it's like, hey, if you're asked to be on a release, clearly you got strong feelings about it, and they're good, they're positive. You'll have something interesting to say. In the case of this movie, I'd seen the poster forever, and I go, "Oh, that's a great poster." Especially when you get to the really weird ones where there's just just stuff blotted around the skull death ship on the poster. There's just weird stuff like in the sky or in the water, and it's just a very busy poster. But in the case of this one, I found I saw a posting about this getting a restoration through Kino Lorber, and it was like, oh, Alexandra Heller Nicholas is on this, and no disrespect to my wife, but she's the smartest woman I know. So, I'm gonna go ahead and look into this. If she's doing a full audio commentary track on it, clearly she's got stuff to say. And then someone followed up by saying, well, it's also about Nazi ghosts, and what better time has there been to be about watching a movie about Nazis?
All right, you don't have to say a number, but I would say what percentage of films for Friends where they appear as a bonus feature, as a commentary track, as an essay or something, how many of those have you collected over the years? Would you say it's 50%? Would you say it's 40%? Because I have a few, but I don't have even as many of my co-hosts' home video contributions as I should have. Ladies and gentlemen at home,
How
Matt
dare
Donato's
you?
giving me the finger.
How
Just wanted
dare
that to
you?
be captured
Every
in the
line.
record. I'm going to read that into the court record right now. This will show up in the dissolution filing. How often do you try and seek that kind of stuff out, Harmony?
Well, see, the hilarious thing about it is I don't always listen to the commentary tracks. I like just having the movie. I really like it when there's like little video essays. I've done a few of those with BJ where it's like, oh yeah, 10-15 minutes. I've got all day for that. Sometimes it's just like knowing that my friends have big enough opinions is enough for me to just go, yeah, I'll buy that. I'll
Mm.
blind buy that. Absolutely. Oh, there's a release of I don't know, Variety or something. Yes, I will watch Betty Gordon's Variety because I mean, I already know that I like it, but just knowing that other people I know like it enough to be on it and put their name on that packaging is sure enough. So I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of friends, but I'd say that I've got a couple dozen maybe of
I
of,
love
of
that.
releases with people I know on them.
I also really enjoy the fact that like being on so like doing video essays like you said, number one, I agree, doing an audio commentary track stresses me out. The idea of
Hmm.
having to have something to say for an entire movie, there's like one or two I've done that I'm really proud of, and then a few that I'm kind of just, I did it, yay. Video
Hmm.
essays rule. I love the art of like putting a video essay together and just being able to like work the script exactly how you want it, come up with like the narration and stuff, then watch it come to life after the graphics are added and stuff. So
Yeah.
I do think that's where the best content is. But I was gonna say, I mean, like, with you and BJ specifically, I like having friends who have such different tastes than I do because I have, even if I don't own them, I still am tracking like what my friends are doing and what they're putting out. And when I
Hmm.
have
Same.
people like y'all who put me on to movies that I like have on a list and I'm like slowly getting to, I think that's the best thing. Like it's that adage of just like surrounding yourself with people who like don't think like you and
Hmm.
in all aspects, let's say, and can have these other opinions and like turn you on to these movies that are like found gems and stuff like that. And I mean, you are one of the only people that can come up with bottom of the barrel, whatever you want to call it, like the midnighters that I've never heard of. So like it's nice having a wealth of knowledge when you like Billy the Kid and the Green Bay's Vampire. I mean, that episode we
Mm.
did alone is just a testament to what you find on Tubi and like how adventurous you are versus other people. Where I think you've also said this too, like you don't have to keep up with new stuff, like critics and alike that we have, our friends. We're seeing a lot of new movies where you can kind of
Hmm.
just be like, I get to do my own shit. Like fuck off. Like it's freeing in a way, I feel like.
I agree with that for sure. I think having good friends who have good taste, and even if there's movies that come out where I go, yeah, I don't like that, but I like that you like it, so maybe I can learn to love it, but I just don't want to watch it again. Even just having that relationship with film with your friends who have different tastes is like a really cool thing to have. I don't know if you know this, Matt. I don't know if I sent this to you. I'm sitting right in front of my 5 foot wide Billy the Kid and the Green Bay's Vampire subway poster. I did not know. It might not be 5 feet. It's really wide. It's like 4 feet wide. It's huge. I did not know how big it was when I bought it. It's the centerpiece of an entire wall in this room. But no, I mean that is, I think, a big part of it though. Is like I don't have to keep up with things professionally, so I have the spoons to just kind of watch whatever I want. It's just like, hey, I want to watch a weirdo made-for-TV movie from 1976 for the BBC. Great, I can go ahead and do that. I can watch I don't know, whatever kind of gonzo stuff from the bottom of the shelf at the video store where I work. Cool. Then I find out no one has rented it in the last 4 years. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm just, I don't know. I'm not deliberately trying to not watch the things because there's so many good movies I should be watching. You know, just the classic cinema that all my coworkers watch, and I'm like, yeah, but have you considered watching something that costs $6,000?
Yeah.
Brad Henderson's ears just perked up when you said that. Shot on video,
Yeah,
$20? What?
yeah. Listen, movies can be anything. Like, I've watched a 4.5 hour movie that was shot on video, and it was way too long, and it used in-camera audio, and every scene was like a half hour, and I did it. I mean, you could, and movies can be whatever. You can watch anything you want. There's no restrictions on things. I won't say that it needed to be that long or that I would necessarily even recommend it, but like you can.
Yeah. I I I like the way that you approach and kind of think about that because I have a couple of different mediums that I've been lucky enough to write about so far. I've been able to write a little bit about tabletop. I've been able to write about film. I've been able to write a little bit about comic books here and there for
Mhm.
our friend Meg at Bloody Disgusting. And every time I sit down and look at the body of work, I'm like, man, I should have fucking done comic books. That should have been my focus. Not because that's my favorite medium, but because it takes me 2 hours to watch a movie. It takes me
Mhm.
anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to learn and then play a game if I'm going to write a review. It takes me 7 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever, to like read through an issue of a comic book. And there are times where I find myself psyching myself out at the beginning of an evening where I'm like, I have to watch this movie for 2 hours to even have an opinion that I then need to write about for anywhere between an hour, 90 minutes, something like that. And then 3.5, 4 hours of my evening are gone, which is
Mhm.
basically like that's my night. We're very lucky to do what we do. And I don't mean to disparage it at all, but I do find that now that I am mostly just writing for Certified Forgotten and I'm really calling the shots on what I want to write about, it is fulfilling and it takes a lot of the pressure off to be like, I've got to go see something just to see something. Like there was a part of me that was like, oh, I'm going to feel like I'm missing out by not being part of the cultural conversation. Fuck that shit. Like it's new horror releases sometimes, and then whatever everybody on my feed won't shut up about on any given day. That's good. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. We've only got so many hours on in our day, in our week, in our life. So maximizing the things we want to do is ultimately very important. I don't want to sit through uh, 8 hours of Bellatar doing four things.
Mm.
I don't know. I talk to people a lot about that recently, and I'm like, I think that's not my guy because I think I have other things to do with my time. I can watch so many dirtbag movies in that time, like a brisk 90 minutes. I watched Death Ship twice this week.
Oh, I love that.
I think that is an unfortunate side effect of social media, though. The idea that, like, when you see everyone talking about something and that's the only thing that's getting engagement, you kind of like almost drift to the idea of like, well, fuck, if everyone's seen it and everyone's talking about it, like I have to be part of it. There's that mob mentality of or hive mindness, I guess is the better way to call it, of like we all have to be talking about the big thing because if
Hmm.
I miss my opportunity, no one's going to give a shit if
Right.
I say something about it a week from now. And I mean, I am the king of television doing that for TV, I guess to say, because I watch episode or entire seasons of like shows that people were bragging about, a year ago. And then I finally get to like, hey, this is pretty good. And like crickets. But like, I don't know. I just feel like the way that social media has driven how society engages with things and like the way that it influences people and the algorithm and all that stuff. Like it is kind of frustrating sometimes to see the little things get left behind. I think we've talked about this on the podcast like prior, but the conversation and everyone having to talk about the one thing leaves these little idiosyncratic films behind and shit.
I agree. I think that it's a tool. We're humans, we're pack animals. Sometimes it feels good to talk about the thing that everyone's talking about because we all got to go, man, Bone Temple rules, right? And we all go, yeah, Bone Temple rules,
Yes.
and that feels good. But at the same time, it's like I think of using streaming sites for like movies or music where it's like, hey, you watched this thing or you like this band. Now scroll down to the bottom and it's like, hey, here's other bands that people are listening to that are like that. Maybe that means the band that people in the bands are in that band too. Maybe they're friends, maybe they've toured together, maybe they're in shows together, maybe they have a similar sound. There's a lot of things that you can stem from just by being more of an active participant in your curation of an algorithm, because it is ultimately a tool that's going to give you more of the thing that you should theoretically want. And it's very easy to be passive when it comes to the things you choose to watch, when the things you're recommended, because streamers want to play you the next movie and don't even wait for the credits or the post-credit scenes. People tell you you should be watching this, and if you're not, what's wrong with you? It's a constant feed of all of that, and I don't know, maybe I'm just online less these days. Maybe I'm taking more of a diplomatic approach, like a diplomacy of one to my things, mixed with like the council of other people going like, this is some Harmony shit, and I go, it is. Let's go. I can't wait to watch something with cowboys or whatever. We're gonna have a good time. BJ there's this movie called like Concrete Cowboys, which I guess is in like Pennsylvania, and it's like about like these black cowboys, and it's based on real history, and they have horses in the city. I'm like, this looks awesome. Give me some cowboys.
Yeah.
No one told me to watch this. This just sounds cool.
Yeah, I was going to, I had in my mind I needed to remember to compliment you on this. So I'm going to do that now.
Hmm.
I do feel that I have a lot of friends in LA. I know there's a lot of folks that I'm connected to out there. Everybody's managing their own feed. It's like, life or death on there. So there is no expectation that anybody should be engaging with my shit. But when I get that little Harmony Colangelo liked your post kind of thing, I'm like, oh, I did something right. Oh, I did something right. Because you're right. You're not as present on Blue Sky as some of the other folks, and you're not trying to be part of those conversations. So if I'm kind of chattering on inanely about something that I enjoyed and I see that little Harmony pop up, I'm like, cool, I did that. Yeah, I'm good. That's my LA friend who gets me, not Donato Harmony.
Yeah. I'm just like a
Whoa, whoa.
cryptid. I come and go mysteriously in the nights of the internet, but like I don't know. It's nice to see people, even passion, just being like, man, people give a shit about things. I like seeing people put in effort and give a shit about things, and both of you do that.
We try. Also, I engage with you, Monocle. I just talk shit.
I never said that you didn't. Anytime I post anything, I can set my watch by when you and Richard will come into my mentions, and I love you both, and that's totally fine.
It's
But
banter. We bring
I
the
will
banter.
I will say that the thing that I do notice with Harmony is Harmony. Not to talk about you like you're not here, but Harmony engages with the stuff where I'm just like musing to myself about a book that I read, a movie that I watched that I was really into. There's no commentary. It's just like, this was cool. I had a good time. It's just like you said, Harmony. It inspires me to also make sure that I'm giving people positive feedback if they're talking about things that made them happy and they're doing it just for them, because that is the kind of social media content that I'm like, that's that I want to see more. What are you doing? Why are you having a good time? That's what I
Mhm.
want to see.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got another minute or two before we're going to switch to talk about today's film. So I do feel like I also want to talk just for a second about This Ends at Prom. You guys are in your, is it fifth or
Fifth
sixth
year,
season? Fifth year?
fifth year. Yeah, it's been going for a long time now.
I was going to say, we check in every time you're on the podcast, which has been sort of yearly, consistently at this point, which I really, really love. So how is that continuing evolution and coverage been going for y'all? I feel like you've started to cover some films that maybe you wouldn't have done in the first couple of years. I don't know if that is, your mission statement broadening a little bit, if you're just making it through the usual suspects, but it does feel like you and BJ are talking about a wide scope of quote unquote teenage movies these days.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've done a lot of like the big ones that you would expect after, 270 some titles, but also just broadening the idea of what a teen film should be, cuz the international films obviously we would love to do a whole lot more, but like there's a certain barrier of entry that comes with that, either in terms of being able to actually watch it as well as like I don't know, interest. I don't know. We don't really think too much about like, oh, this is going to perform badly. I think of our show
Mm,
as having a maybe a low ceiling but a high floor. You know, you kind of
yes.
we were going to hit like a base number pretty much consistently because we have really lovely loyal fans, but we're not going to really break through that ceiling very often. So like we can kind of set our clock to what our month's going to look like. But I don't know. There's a lot to be said about covering battle royale as well as smart house. you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of stories that exist in there. And boy, it's been hard to not just be very bleak about things, because how do we got really depressed watching My Neighbor Totoro because it's post-war.
I do. Thank you, by the way, for using the floor and ceilings thing. We talked about that in a recent Uncertified episode, and I actually had somebody leave a comment on Blue Sky that was like, "That's a phrase people know. That's not just you." So
Hmm.
this is like immediate feedback and validation that I'm not the only one that thinks of that like floors and ceilings analogy for art.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Like the podcast has never been more popular. We've got a really set our watch by our things. We've got really loyal people who like love to engage with us in the Discord, and also like the Patreon to a lesser degree. Most of that's moved over to the Discord at this point because it's just a more active social sort of site, app, whatever. But yeah, just chugging along, a slow growth, consistent growth, over a long period of time. No complaints. But like even this year, I'm like, I think this is the year we're gonna do even bigger stuff. We've just been kind of going along at a little, puttering along at our little leisurely stroll with our lovely little movies. But I'm like, let's actually do some like let's see if we can flex that podcast muscle a little bit and try and do some cool stuff that we haven't done before. So it's not ever been like a mission statement to be like, now we're going to start to evolve things, but it's like, well, I mean, apparently we're popular enough that we can do a little bit. So let's try.
What I'm hearing is fingers crossed, coming soon to a film festival near you? Question
Uh,
mark.
I mean, possibly we've had more than, I mean, we did ones during the pandemic when they were still digital. And I know we've had a couple theaters be like, we'd love to have you host screenings. Unfortunately, we're in other states on the other side of the country. Um, but yeah, I think we'll be around. I think we could do some stuff. It's really offer up on that one. But I'm never just writing people off on that.
Well, if you are a programmer anywhere within the, especially if you're within the Los Angeles area, obviously you should consider the Certified Forgotten for all your horror programming needs. But you should definitely check out the Wives Colangelo for This Ends at Prom. They're ready. They're right there. Make it happen.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that brings us to the close of the first half of the episode. We've gotten this far. We didn't even make it this far. We talked a little bit about Death Ship. We broke our rule a bit because it's just
How
it's a
could you
movie.
not?
How could you not? How can you not talk about this film? So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time for Ghosts and Nazis.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome back. So, this week on the podcast, we are going to be talking about Death Ship. And if you have not seen Death Ship, it's available right now. I watched it on Tubi. It's a really good rip. You should definitely check it out there, free, of course, with a few ads. I learned a bit about doing my taxes in the new year, so that was kind of worth price of admission. Watch the film, pause the podcast, come join us afterwards. And if you're still here, if you've already seen it, or if you just like to take the cold plunge, let's do a quick plot synopsis for you. After a long and storied career at sea, Captain Ashford is calling it quits, or being made to call it quits by his employers. Taking his place is Trevor Marshall, who celebrates the occasion by bringing his family to sea. But when their ship collides with an unknown vessel, Ashford, Marshall, and the rest of the survivors seek shelter aboard an abandoned German tanker, which soon proves itself to be a haunted graveyard for twisted Nazi experiments, a death ship, if you will. Harmony, you
Yeah,
picked this film.
sure did.
Donato was probably even more excited than you were that you picked this, just to throw that out there. What made this be the film you want to talk about on the podcast?
I watched it a couple days ago because I was like, it's 90 minutes. I'm doing some stuff. I can put this on before work, easy peasy. And then I just kept finding myself stopping what I was doing and going like, wait, what's happening now? Excuse me, what? Like there's multiple parts where it just cuts to, kind of images of the future, the horrible fates that will befall our shipwrecked cast, and it just does that. So then I go,
Mhm.
wait, did I miss something? And then I rewind it. I go, no, it's just cutting to that. It's just doing some A24 cuts like decades before they were, and yeah, I don't know. I think there's something to this movie, and even just revisiting it the second time around, I'm like, no, listen. This movie's got a bad reputation. It's a cult favorite, but like, it doesn't have great reviews. It's probably a respectable 6 out of 10 across the board in most categories. However, there's stuff going on here. I think there's stuff we can talk about. So then I texted Donato and was like, "Hey, you ever seen Death Ship?" And he goes, "No, but I wanna."
That is probably verbatim the text that he sent to you, because I think I've gotten that one from him as well. Donato, so you had not seen it. My question to you is, how the fuck had you not seen this?
I mean, listen again. Let's go back to the conversation I have all the time about. I never had that sibling or parent who put me onto the older stuff. So weirdly enough, I have seen a lot of today's trash. The baby
Mhm.
Frankensteins of the world. But I am still have a lot of work to do, not only on the classics of yesteryear, but the midnight classics, let's say. So it's just a byproduct of kind of how I became a fan.
Yeah, I get. Listen. I get all that. I respect all that. But the thing that surprises me about this is not because it was some cult classic. It's because it's aquatic horror, and I do think of you as an expert. Like, if there is a movie where people are in the water, I am going to text you first and be like, "Is this worth my time?" So the surprise for me is that are aquatic horror films that you had not gotten to yet.
Fair and valid, but that's more aquatic creature features. I'll give you that. I mean,
Okay.
this is a aquatic haunted house movie technically, so I like
Mhm.
that's it's kind of out of my my subgenre kind of.
All right, that's fair. I'll give you that. All right, well then back to you, Harmony. That very brief plot synopsis kind of gives folks a flavor for what the film is about. Disjointed is maybe a kind word in tone and in narrative of this movie, but I'm curious, as you were watching it for the first time, as you were apparently rewatching it for the second time in a week.
Yeah.
What is it about this movie that kind of gives it that like extra something special? Because I agree with you, and I'm excited to unpack that. But I do think it took me even years apart, two watches, to kind of get those glimpses that I think that you were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is. I mean, I was trying to piece together like why this movie. It feels like the most Italian movie that is not made by Italians.
Mm,
It's like a British Canadian movie, but it feels so Italian. But it's like part Amityville horror, part Jaws, part Poseidon Adventure, or something like that. It's a lot of these things that were big in the '70s because this is still distinctly a '70s movie, even though it comes out at the very start of the '80s. But I don't know. It's nice to see a movie that is, quite frankly, like, it's shot well. Like, the camera
mhm,
work is really nice. There's a lot of subtle tricks with, the lighting and angles, that I quite like. There's this, thing that I didn't notice until BJ pointed it out, where she's like, "Oh, I love that they're just, like, slightly moving the camera because a lot of the movie's in handheld, but they're slightly moving it to make it look like the ship is swaying constantly." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really clever because I didn't pay attention to it because it's just this thing that you subconsciously wouldn't notice because you're on a boat. Of course, it's going to move a little bit." And also, the movie opens with a whole lot of footage of ships, and it is shaky as hell. It is so scrappy. But yeah, I mean, I knew what the kind of twist of this movie was going in, and I have not done as much this year as I did last year, but people were saying like, "How are you handling the presidency, the first year of the presidency?" I'm like, "Well, I'm watching mostly the bleakest things I can imagine because I need to be reminded that things were always bad, and it's not like this is a new thing. And if people over were able to overcome and push through previous things that were bad, then they can do this one."
mm.
So, this being a movie about Nazis that actually is talking about like the torturous nature of them, the brutality of them, this barbaric nature of like what they inflicted as suffering and not as just like a vaguely historical boogeyman. I think there's something to that a lot of movies that use them as, kind of just a generic evil stand-in don't really tap into. It just feels like the Nazi's a bad guy and not that fascism is the bad guy.
Right. It's like stormtroopers. They're bad guys with an aesthetic and too much media. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, what I dig about this, number one, I did not, I did not see that coming.
Mm,
I didn't know the Nazi angle. I stole that from you, Monocle, whatever.
you're fine.
But no, I didn't know that angle going into it. So I did expect more of a traditional, again, haunted house afloat type of movie. But what drew me in is the idea that it's less a haunted house than it is a possessed house. And I should stop saying
Mhm.
house. It's a boat. It's a fucking
Yeah,
boat. So it's a
it's a
possessed
houseboat.
boat. Yes, sorry. It's a possessed house of horrors boat. But The
I like
boat,
how
it's
I like how you focused on each individual word. Like it's possessed. Well, it's not possessed. It's haunted. But it's not a house. It's a boat. Like we got there eventually. But
dude, I'm still not even caught up from
I
Sundance.
hear
Give
you.
me a little bit of a break.
I got
No,
you. I got you.
but I liken it to something like Dick Moss's The Lift, or Deathbed, the Bed That Eats. And
Hmm.
you take something that is an obvious, like, it's an inanimate object, it's not something that can do those things, and the minute that the boat started torturing the survivors on the raft who are trying to seek refuge within the hull and all these things, and poor Saul Rubinek, the first one to go, and all
Mm,
of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's an anti-Semitic boat. Oh, okay,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
real big time. Okay.
Yep. Something I didn't learn, I learned about this actually about researching the individual cast members of this. For example, there's this guy, I think his name is Nick on it. He does some of the voices for Billy in Black Christmas, which is crazy. So that man is already horror royalty as far as I'm concerned by this point in his career, because Billy is so scary. But something I was learning about that actor is that his parents actually were in the Holocaust.
that's that sucks.
And so,
That's a tough gig.
yeah, so like there is something that comes together with this as an anti-Semitic thing. I think they've written books about their experiences on it, and they've spoken about. They lived through it, by the way.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
there's that. But yeah, that being meta text for this kind of adds a whole lot to what they're doing, because if you rewatch this movie, as I have, there's a lot of details that you do pick up on that makes it like really obviously a Nazi boat, because obviously there's that the boat's anti-Semitic. There's the German that is playing through the the PA system or in Captain Ashland's head. But even as far as like the opening credits are concerned, it has that harsh Gothic font that the Nazis loved. And there's a great detail, because this actually was something that came across my feed recently, unrelated to this. I follow a Blue Sky account called Weird Medieval Guys, and it's just like a historian person who just like finds old illustrations from medieval times and just shares like weird frogs and dogs and stuff, and goes like, "Look at this weird guy." And they wrote an article. It's like, why do Nazis like this font? And it's a stellar read about like trying to maintain a sense of German pride, because Germans didn't really know their own history, because a lot of the Germanic tribe were illiterate, because they were a roaming tribe of people. And so they don't know their history. So it was basically piecing together this font that was popular in like France, and having it be an example of like brutalism that the rest of Europe was kind of doing away with, because it seemed as barbaric. It was seen as passe and really harsh to read. But the German people were like, no, because it's tough. And we want to be tough because we are underprivileged and we are looked down on by the rest of Europe, but we're fucking tougher than them. And it's like, oh my God, the fact that even just the opening font of this movie is linked to this is crazy. It's a fantastic read if you want to look into it.
Like, that's so funny because I clocked the font and I still didn't put it together until later. Like, I clocked the font being what it was and it's standing out and being a like noticeable like style choice.
Hmm.
And yet it still took me about halfway through, or not halfway through. It becomes pretty evident that the boat's a Nazi boat.
Yeah.
But no, like those, you're right. Like those little details, I didn't think about it that way. And people talk about Midnighters, and I've said the word Nazi boat, or sorry, possessed Nazi boat multiple times now.
Yeah.
But to kind of tell people that there's more to a movie like this than just the more ludicrous elements and the ridiculousness, and that like, yeah, there's plenty of stuff stuck in here too. Like, I mean, the deaths are kind of brutal. Like
Hmm.
they're brutal, but also like psychologically torturing. I just think about the one woman that gets stuck in the shower and is just getting drenched with blood until she just
Hmm.
like gives up and just collapses on the ground. And like it's such like it's not relentless. I've seen way worse like physically violent deaths in horror movies, but just the way that she is just enduring that and can't get out, and like the trapped claustrophobic nature of it, like it really got to me. Like that one especially got to me.
Hmm. No, absolutely, and it's shot really well. They have a camera mounted into the ceiling, and especially when she gives up, like it looks like a significantly more artsy film than what this is. When she is just like slumped at the bottom of the shower, just drenched in shower blood. Yeah, like there's not a lot of quick deaths in this movie. Even as simple as like, hey, we're going to break the ladder bridge that you were climbing onto the ship with, and we're going to drench you in the water. And then when you come up, we're going to dump something on you, oil, sewage, I don't know. It is a torturous boat that is not quick or painless deaths. It will be a lot of suffering with some pretty good practical effects. Like that crane lift is very good.
Hmm.
I'll say that like the one older woman whose face is like deteriorating or poisoned or something, that's probably the worst effect in the movie. But yeah, like the corpse effects, all of the stuff is pretty dang good. There's something very visceral about how they handled their violence in this movie that aside from the shower scene has pretty minimal blood.
And that's what I was reading through some of the reviews. That was something that people kept pointing out is the fact that the film feels a little bit like it's caught between these different modes of horror in the era, right? Like it has a little bit of like the 70s ghost movie, but it also has a little bit of the 70s exploitation cinema, but it also has a little bit of like the 80s like body horror thing. And
Mhm.
it's funny to me in revisiting it again. I guess you don't revisit something again. In revisiting it, I found that locked into me in for me a little bit more maybe than on the first viewing. I probably was a bit more sympathetic to the complaint that it's straddling these worlds kind of unevenly. But I think that there is something that creates its own unique thing. Like it is its own thing because it is not a straightforward exploitation film. It is not a straightforward ghost movie. It is kind of occupying a few of these spaces and choosing which tropes and which visual concepts it wants to use in its movie. That makes it more memorable. Like movies that try and do a couple of things and are successful to varying degrees of that versus a movie that tries to do just sort of one mode of it's a zombie movie, it's an exploitation cinema, whatever.
Mhm.
This is the kind of thing that I can see why it has legs because it's not something that you watch and you're immediate, you write that one sentence letterbox review and you're like, a zombie movie or whatever. It takes you a minute to sort of be like, what did I just watch? And what were those pieces that went into it?
Oh yeah, I think this is a intelligently crafted film. It's maybe a bit chopped up. I wish that there was maybe like 5 more minutes of footage to just string some pieces together and connect some parts, and I think it would be a much better film for it. It would still be fairly zany, but no, it is there's a lot of thought put into how they do everything here, and I feel like when you have an entire tanker at your disposal and some pretty good set pieces, like when the death ship collides with the ocean liner,
Hmm.
it collapses an entire wall that fills with water. Like that's not a cheap set piece to have. So like they had to put some effort into this. And honestly, just something even as practical as this ship being so rotted and decayed in a way that like is real. I have through a weird YouTube algorithm ended up onto abandoned malls and shipwreck YouTube.
Oh, nice.
So I'm learning about like cruise ships that catch on fire and disastrously managed malls that fall into decay and just become a cesspool for graffiti and vandalism and fires for 20 years until they're torn down, crazy stuff like that. And there's a lot of things about like the apocalypse or dilapidated structures that movies get pretty dang right. But like when you see something that has just worn down through time on its own like this, you can't fake that. Like there's something daunting and brutalist in of itself with this giant freighter being so harsh and so immovable that I don't know. There's something. It's imposing. Like there's a bit of a megalophilia about it, or megalophobia about it, where it's just the fear of large things. Oftentimes, cruise ships versus the size of like a person who is so insignificant against it. Um, that being the vessel, pardon the pun, of what fascism is. This giant harsh, cold structure that is rotted and rusted and decayed that will physically go around the sea and hunt people down because it wants to. That's all it knows is pain and rot. Like this movie's got ideas to it.
That is absolutely the pull quote for the episode. That is such like Such a good observation that just skipped across the surface for me. So there it is. That's the one. Donato, when you're doing the edit, that's the one we're going to use.
Yeah, I mean, like again, that is what haunted me about the entire film because, in Ghost Ship, you can run away from the ghosts or you can
Hmm.
try and hide, but the boat itself has areas you can explore, go away from the bad things and hopefully escape. Where you, as you have just said eloquently, you cannot do that in Death Ship because the entire ship is the evil thing. If you want to
Hmm.
survive, you have to jump off of it and risk honestly just empty waters, and it's like there's no salvation. Like you're stuck here. Either you're gonna die getting thrown overboard by the boat, or you can do it yourself and hopefully survive but still probably die.
Hmm. I think there's a lot about this movie that I would love to see someone who I didn't look into it, but there's a lot of German in this movie, and I would love to know like the specifics of it. But one of the things that I find interesting is when they find a new cruise ship that they're going to attack. When the death ship finds a new ship, it says Achtung, which I looked up. I'm like, what does that mean? Because there's a U2 album called like Achtung Baby, and I don't know what that means, and it's apparently German for like watch out or like heed. And they say abandoned ship, which is an interesting addition to it, to think that like obviously there's ghosts of like horrible dead German soldiers, but like the ship is more powerful than the ghosts. The ship itself is like been imbued with like hatred and evil that will possess everyone. And it seems like even the own crew does not want to just barrel into and sink their own ship on that mission. They have some sense of self preservation. And you see that with the Captain Ashland character, which may be the silliest thing in the silliest movie is that the ship goes down at night. The survivors are floating on the ocean. And then, like, presumably, like 6 hours later, the captain emerges from the sea. Fine, mostly.
You know what? But he's played by George Kennedy, so I'm okay
Yeah.
because we get more fantastic. That's the other part that I wanted to mention. Just the cast that we've already said. I mean, like it's one of Saul Rubinek's. It's technically his first role if we're looking at
Mhm.
limited
Mhm.
releases. So like introducing Saul Rubinek.
Mhm.
But I mean, like Richard Crenna of the Rambo franchise is in here. Like
He's great.
he's great in it, and like this is a guy that has like a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I just mentioned
Mhm.
George Kennedy. Like you know him from Dallas, you know him from The Naked Gun. Like these
Yeah.
are popular actors of the time and like well regarded actors doing this kind of stuff. And to get them in something like Death Ship, playing it super straight. That's why
Yeah.
it works for
Yes.
me. They are
That's an
playing it
important detail.
straight as hell. They are taking it so serious the entire time. And that's what makes it both more fun because you can laugh at the nature of what is happening and how close they're playing this to the vest, but the way that they are also like giving it the elevation that it needs, and like they're not in on the joke. They are fucking playing it exactly how they need to and making sure that like you're getting across that there is horror here. This isn't like a horror comedy outright. It's a cult classic, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I was really impressed by the way that the cast was able to like not break under the pressure of some of this insane material.
Absolutely. I think George Kennedy being asleep for like half the movie maybe gives a weird vibe for people who are just not sitting with this movie as the whole of it. But once he's like up and moving, it's like, oh no, he's got something to him because he obviously knows what he's doing. He's a very seasoned actor by this point in his career. Even I know him mostly for the Naked Gun movies, where he plays a decidedly very different role that is played 100% straight. But the idea that he could be corrupted by also like this hatred that he thinks he can control. You watch Cabaret, and they're just like, oh, we'll use the Nazi Party, and they'll get rid of our enemies, and then we'll control them, and it'll work out. And then you can't control it. He is, even though he is not necessarily a Nazi himself, as far as I know. I mean, the movie certainly doesn't make that a point, but he's willing to go along with it. He's willing to be corrupted by that because he lost his ship because he was just unpleasant and old, and the patrons on the cruise ship didn't care for him. And so they got a younger, more friendly captain, and he says, "How fucking dare you? You can't take my ship. You're a boy. I'm a man. I'm stronger than you. I'm mightier than you. You can't even turn the wheel, and I can do it with like one finger because I'm a man who knows how to control a boat." And the idea of like him just refusing to pass things down, and like maybe this is something about the gerontocracy that we live in right now, but it's like, oh, I refuse to let go of the old ways for someone who is better equipped and more pleasant in literally every way. No, how fucking dare you take this from me? I will kill everyone to keep what I want. Like, again, he's doing a good job, and this movie's saying something.
He's doing a good job, except when it's his stunt double in a terrible wig.
Oh, there's some bad wigs in this movie, especially when like women have to jump off boats in this movie. It's like bad grandma wigs.
Well, I will say that George Kennedy, of course, the star of the unbeatable Radioactive Dreams, which I need to throw out since we've all named our favorite George Kennedy movie. I feel like I had to get in the mix there as well. You know, this is not going to be a deep cut, but I found myself on this watch thinking a lot about Sam Neill's performance in Event Horizon because I
Hmm.
do feel like what Kennedy is doing in this film and what Neil is doing in that film in terms of these abbreviated character arcs that lead them to a place of selfishness and all of the antisocial elements that make them predisposed to be influenced by this entity, whatever it may be. I have to imagine again, not exactly like Virus has the same kind of thing with Donald Sutherland, right? Like a captain who
Hmm.
like gives himself over to the thing. We're not exactly breaking new thematic territory here, but when it's done well, and I think Kennedy obviously does it really well, Neil does it really well. It's a fun little arc. The Gabriel Byrne arc, you mentioned Ghost Ship earlier, Donato. Like it's really fun. This one of my favorite archetypes in horror is the nominal authority figure who is like the first to be like, whoops, lost myself. I'm evil
Yeah.
now. It's great. It's great in every flavor and every size of horror film.
Oh yeah, it kind of makes you like as a story, it makes you be rudderless. Like you had direction, you knew where you were going. This seems like the guy who's going to lead you to what push you, carry everyone through things, guide everyone through things, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, there's no captain. What is a ship without a captain? Ah, we've got nothing. Also adding to the meta text of it is George Kennedy's in The Dirty Dozen, my favorite Nazi killing movie,
Yeah.
where all they're doing is they're spending time training to kill Hitler.
Yep. And I think that maybe I'm thinking what you said about like I don't know if he's a Nazi, maybe he isn't, and of course it doesn't matter. What's
Hmm.
if you go into a bar and there's a Nazi there, it's a Nazi bar kind of thing.
Yep.
But I do
He's
think that
complicit at the very least.
at the very least. But I do think it's an interesting, again, to run with the good analogies that you're making today. That proximity to power, right? We can drop Faust if we want to be super pretentious about
Hmm.
about World War II movies and like pat ourselves on like I've seen Faust. Have you seen Faust? I'm doing. There you go. There's your white pretentious guy at the bar moment for your harmony. Um, but I do think that the overall message that I think both of you have kind of highlighted here that I agree with is there is no such thing as a safe or simple Nazi allegory. Like if there are Nazis in a movie, if it is Dead Snow 2 or if it is Death Ship, there are some things in there to take note of and pay attention and give some weight to because the people that put those characters in there are certainly not doing it just for the aesthetic.
Oh, certainly. Especially when it is a movie of this vintage. Because I was thinking about this today. Um, Death Ship is rolling up on being 50 years old,
Mm,
because the 80s started almost 50 years ago. That is how far we have come since then. But even looking at that point, like these are people who, making these movies or starring in movies like this who, you're own less than 40 years removed from the end of World War II. If you did not personally experience what that war was, you grew up in the shadow of it. And so you have a direct attachment to, what that was, what the impacts of it were, either, on, literal sense over in Europe or in a a broad like rationing sense in America. There are effects that trickle down from it. And I think I think we've just like have got it in our heads as we've gotten further and further away from World War II that like we as Americans, the British as the British, like probably the Russians as the Russians, like we beat the Nazis, which means we beat fascism. And it's like, no, you beat one example of Nazis. And it's nice to think that when you beat them, you won. And because you beat the bad thing, you're the good guy. But you ignore the homegrown fascism that exists in your own society as a result. That's something that has been prevalent through decades and decades now. Skinheads have been a thing, neo-Nazis have been a thing, and at this point, like I love a goofy movie where it's just like, listen, Hitler's here. Little Nicky, they shove a pineapple up his ass while he's wearing a French maid outfit. I love seeing that as much as the next person. It's crazy that Adolf Hitler has a credit on Letterboxd in this movie for archival footage. What an insane thing to see. But it is nice to see the weight of fascism be treated seriously in a movie that is probably very goofy, that is probably very silly. And, I went to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. in eighth grade. When they finally have whatever visions that let them see the torturous things and they go in and they just see like rows and piles and shelves full of like shoes and clothes. I remember walking through that and maybe as a kid, you don't grasp the severity of it. You don't understand death or numbers that large at the time. You just go, oh, this room kind of smells and it's cold. And I don't fully understand what's going on because I'm 12. But that is in this movie. That's the images. That's the horror of the war. Like the pain matters. It's not senseless violence for the sake of entertainment. Like, obviously, they're trying to make an entertaining movie, but it is providing you with the origin of the ghosts and the horror in a way that a lot of haunted house movies don't totally the weight doesn't stand up. I think they go, oh, the ghosts are mad, or like you're in their house, or you put a house on their graveyard. Like there's things that matter, but this feels weightier, and maybe it's the environment that I'm viewing it in. I don't know if either of you are feeling that these days. Maybe I'm just a touch more sensitive, and if I had seen this like 3 years ago, I would just go, haha, it's fun. But just seeing the displays of this be treated in this movie proves that like any movie can treat fascism seriously. Any movie can show the weights of this seriously.
Yeah.
No, I mean, not to tie back to Sundance very quickly, but I mean, like the three documentaries I saw were all about people fighting corrupt systems, whether that was the Mandela doc, literally about him fighting fascism,
Mm-hmm.
Billie Jean King about her activism and fighting against the patriarchy and other things. And When a Witness Recants is literally about like three innocent men fighting back against a corrupt American justice system. And like
Mm-hmm.
the prevailing message at the end of every one of those movies is what you just kind of said. Like the Mandela doc literally ends with Mandela being like, cool, I did this, but this is just the beginning. Like I
Mm-hmm.
overturned one single fascist regime, but there's going to be so many more. And like, you have to be ready to continue to fight. This isn't
Yeah.
over. This is just starting. So like, yeah, 100% that hits. That
Mm-hmm.
because everything you said hits super hard because here's the thing in Death Ship, we didn't beat fascism. The Nazi boat's still out there.
Yep.
Yeah, it won. They got
Yeah.
they got away, I guess, and theoretically they're never going to go in the water again, so they're probably safe from it. But the general sense is like it's going to get other people. If not getting me today, then someone else tomorrow. Fighting stuff like this, taking an active role in overthrowing fascist institutions and people is kind of like dieting. Dieting sucks. Nobody wants to diet. People just want to like take a plan that says eat a bunch of bacon and you'll be fine, or take Ozempic and you'll lose weight. Like that's the easy thing, and it'd be nice if it was that easy. But ultimately, it's about changing your habits on a day-to-day basis in order to have a healthier life in a longer term. And that is what stuff like this is. It's changing your habits. It's functionally changing how you operate because we're just a little, too comfortable. Listen, I love eating cookies, but like you can't just eat cookies and they'll lose weight. It doesn't work that way. That's not how making life changes works. So, yeah, I don't know. Like there's I don't know. I don't know a lot of things. I have a lot of feelings about this
Yeah.
movie, and that they win. The boat wins, and they clearly probably wanted sequels, and they're not getting them because the movie didn't do that well. I watched the trailer. It didn't look great from the trailer.
Well, let's end with the question that we ask. And I think Harmony, you in particular have made the compelling case that yes, this is a 80s movie and it has moments in the trailer and it has moments in the movie that you could be like, okay, this is goopy, this is over the top. It's that kind
That
of a
one little
thing.
boy has to pee constantly.
Correct. Like 4 times over the course of the film, which is 4 more times than any character should have to pee in a movie,
Hmm.
just from a pacing standpoint. Uh, I think that we've made the argument successfully that there's probably that this movie has some weight and that you should appreciate it as such. So the question then, Harmony, as you've answered so many times before on the podcast, is how does this film find its audience? What is the audience for this movie, and how does it connect to them? And maybe if it's okay, we'll take the idea of like our current existential dread off the table because of course we're all going to gravitate towards movies like this for this. Like in a world that maybe gets a little bit better, where does this still lock in for audiences?
I asked somebody at one point prior to watching this, like, hey, is this movie good? And they go, well, it's fun. Because it's probably someone who watched it 10 years ago and was like, oh,
Hmm.
it's a little goofy, it's a little uneven, but there's the good effects, good lighting, good effects, good set pieces. I think that this movie is fun if you want to have fun, and it is plenty deep if you want it to be deep. I think there's genuinely like very horrifying imagery in this film. Um, whether it be the guy who ends up in the net of sopping skeletons and corpses and stuff, that's gross. Or the same guy who is trying to rip down the projection screen showing Nazi propaganda, and every time he rips down a screen, there's another screen, and you can't stop it. I don't know. There's kind of something here for everyone, but because it is so many different things, it's almost like you kind of have to have a wide diet.
Mm.
You have to have a wide set of tastes that says like you can't love strictly horror movies, you can't love strictly exploitation movies, you can't love strictly, big budget or low budget or whatever. I think that maybe enjoying this movie to its fullest extent is a little bit of an exercise in having like uh this is going to sound insane, a refined palate.
No, I buy
Maybe
that. I
to
buy
get
that.
the most out of it, to detect on all of the little notes of hickory and honey on your tongue or whatever, like, oh, this is a delicious IPA. I i think that you have to actually like look at this movie from all of its approaches, and maybe we've lost a lot of that with people because there's no good market for like really credible exploitation cinema. People haven't developed a palate for it because they associate exploitation cinema with being exploitative, and to some degree it is. This is a Nazi exploitation film, but at the same time, it allows you to explore extremely harsh, difficult, painful topics that even the horror genre doesn't always broach. So, I don't know. I guess I want everyone to watch this the way that I've watched it. Our good, all three of us, I think, in this room have at least some appreciation for it, and we all have different but fun taste. So it's like try to see it the way that other people do, maybe if they like it, and maybe you'll walk away with a good cult classic that's better than you think.
Yeah. Donato, I feel like you're going to end up in a similar place.
Oh no, I like ditto 100%. And I think, it's one of those films that would play really well. I already mentioned, The Lift, Dick Moss's, fantastic in my opinion, killer elevator movie. But like when you stack them side by side, I think both films fit the exact definition of like exploitation that Harmony is describing. And they both do such a good job at not just being a ridiculous piece of camp. Like they are full-fledged movies with a lot of technical polish, and both like span some subgenres that you don't expect. So I love the idea of like pairing those kind of movies, or you know this isn't even the first possessed boat movie we've talked about on Certified Forgotten.
That's
Like
true.
Rob Hunter brought us The Boat. It's crazy that this is becoming a trend on our podcast, but like opening the door to somebody and saying like, cool, here's Death Ship. You might also like The Boat, or you might also like The Lift, or you might also like Blood Vessel, a 2020 movie about it's set during World War II this time, and there's Nazi vampires on a boat that survivors encounter. Like, there is so much you can find and discover, and the curation we were talking about before. If you just kind of get curious and say, oh shit, I really like Death Ship, and you start going down that like trail of like other movies that are vaguely connected, I this is a really interesting one that has so many comparison points, and I think could be a really fun like programmer to just marathon after that. Like, I don't know, it's just all that stuff that Harmony says is true, and like I'm just thinking of how people could get like excited about it but also like spend a day falling down the rabbit hole that is Death Ship.
Oh yeah, I think that the easy one would be like, well, you've seen Death Ship. Now, do you want to see Ghost Ship? And it's like, well, see, that's what like that's what like the algorithm on streamers will tell you to do, and
Yes.
that'll be like the easy, boring option. Because listen, we've all seen Ghost Ship, I assume. That opening 10 minutes rules, and then who needs to watch the rest of this?
Hmm.
It's not great, but if you look at the individual pieces, if you don't look at it in like the broad brushstrokes of like, yeah, it's a ghost ship, it's a haunted ship, whatever, then that's where you get into like the more interesting stuff. So I guess actually sitting with the movie and thinking about the individual components is where it would be very fun to program parts with it. Yeah.
Well, and that brings us to the end of this week's episode, where we started by talking to Harmony about the best beers for pretentious film bros, and we ended talking about the need for exploitation cinema as a way of processing fascism, because that's what we do. That's the kind of range we
Yeah.
got, and that's why we bring awesome guests like Harmony on to be able to provide the full-fledged film criticism experience. So, Harmony, I know that you've got new episodes of This Ends At Proms coming out. This is the place where you should plug what you're doing, and where folks can follow you on social media.
Oh yeah, I mean, This Ends a Prom. We do the widest range of movies you can possibly imagine. I think at this point, we did a tally at one point. I don't know where it is, but I think a quarter of our films were either horror or like horror adjacent, which is a pretty good ratio for a non-horror podcast to be doing. And I think around the time this will be coming out, our next upcoming episode will be a horror movie. We're going to be doing Warm Bodies. Y'all ever seen that one?
Oh, yes, that's nice. I like that
I
movie.
like Warm Bodies. I'm a
I do
fan.
too.
Right. I
It's
was I
warm and
I'd never
fuzzy.
seen it before, and I was like, "Oh, this is lovely." I mean, it's so 2013 and YA, but like this is really nice. It's going to be our Valentine's Day episode.
That's an excellent choice.
Yeah.
Any one social media platform that you prefer if folks want to stay connected with you? Are you mostly on Blue Sky these days? Mostly on Instagram?
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm mostly on either at this point, but
Sure,
that's where
that's
you'll
fair.
find me is Harmony Colangelo at Instagram or Blue Sky. I guess I probably use Blue Sky more. I only post like a picture to Instagram like once a month, but I use stories sometimes.
All right, there you go. Those are the places to look out. And I'm going to listen to the Warm Bodies episode. I like that movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
Donato, where can folks stay connected to you online?
You can find me, as always, at Donato Bomb, and that is mostly Blue Sky, Instagram, and Letterboxd. And right now, it is just an avalanche of Sundance coverage that I'm finally posting because I did Sundance and then I moved the very next day after I flew home. So I am trying to catch up on my life. So I apologize if I'm a little late posting things. If it's weird that I'm posting Sundance stuff after Sundance, whatever. But yeah, wrote about 16, 17 reviews, did the interview, and we're already getting back to it because tomorrow, as day of recording, I got to go watch Strangers Chapter 3. God damn it.
But sometimes when your friend Matt Donato moves, he texts you and is like, "Hey, would you like this hat from Alien Earth?" And I say, "Yes, absolutely, please." And then I get a free USSC hat the next time that I see him. So there's an upside. Personally, this has all worked out very well for me. I'm very happy about your move. As for myself, you can follow me just on Blue Sky. It's Monocle at bluesky.social or whatever that string is. More importantly, though, you should visit certifiedforgotten.com. You can follow Certified Forgotten on Blue Sky and Instagram. And we have been going through a little bit of an email server upgrade, thanks to our friends at Lead, but we should be up and running this week. There should be a new newsletter out the door either tomorrow or the next day as of this recording. So be sure to sign up for our newsletter at certifiedforgotten.com/newsletter. Harmony, congratulations. You are now the most appeared guest in Certified Forgotten history. And
Wow.
we are going to do our best to make sure you hold that title for as long as possible.
Oh, thank you.
I
I
think
think the last time I was here, it's like, well, what kind of insane thing are you going to bring us next time? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't found it yet.
and then you did. I do
Yeah.
think your competition is your wife, though. So there,
Yeah,
I
fair
think
enough.
it's BJ who's the other one. So just before it's going to be a civil war in the household.
I'm sure it will be quite a vicious one.
I'm sure. But thank you so much for joining us for this time around. It's been a great episode, and we're going to end every episode as we do every episode with Donato saying something hopefully somber and in keeping with the tone of the discussion we just had. Donato, go.
All aboard the SS Anti-Semite.
Yeah.